Given some of the things that you found in your dissertation research, what are some things that you think are important for institutions to know? You mentioned Jamie Washington, and one experience I remember having being a participant at the Social Justice Training Institute,
Oh,
SJTI,
yes.
with him. Remember, we left, and one of the questions, and on our way, just we had just had this experience of taking this intentional time to reflect on our practice and reflect on things. But then conversations around re-entering back into the environments that we came from. Because sometimes, even with higher education, I think it's like we leave and we have some experiences. And sometimes on those breaks and holidays, you got to go back into an environment in which some of our students may have changed, but sometimes they go back to places that have not. And so what are some things you're gonna do to manage that, navigate that? And one of the questions was, what's something we need to stop, start, and continue doing? So based on some of the things that you found, what are some things that you feel are important for institutions to start, stop, and continue doing when it comes to actually supporting these equity officers in their work?
Oh, okay. So that's a really good question. Stop, start, and continue doing. So the first thing is oftentimes equity officers are set in place because something traumatic has happened. For if you will, we had George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. Those happened during the pandemic. So then you have an uproar of Black students and their allies. What are you all going to do as administrators to make sure that we still have a welcoming climate on campus? We are upset. We are, in some cases, frightened. So, talk to students and not assume that you know it all just because you are reading the literature, looking at whatever the case may be TikTok, Instagram, CNN, the list goes on, because there's nothing like talking to an individual face to face and just saying to them, I don't know how this makes you feel, but I want to know. I had a chief diversity officer who was in a cabinet meeting, only Black person on the cabinet, had recently actually finally sat down to watch the George Floyd video. It told this gentleman up. It tore him completely up. It tore him completely up. And then it hit him to his core because this individual happened to be clergy. Sitting in the meeting on Zoom, and the entire cabinet, everybody else white, nobody mentioned one thing about George Floyd or the current climate that our country was in. And he started talking about it. And unfortunately, at the time he started talking about it, things went wrong with his Zoom or whatever. And he said, none of you all made not one mention, not one word to ask how I'm doing. And here I am set in place, diversity, equity, and inclusion at this
Mhm.
institution. And it was dead silent, right? And of course, at the end of the meeting, I didn't say anything because I didn't know what to say, or I just didn't. And so I called that particular vignette the dismissive leadership team, or dismissive leaders, because he said he felt invisible. This is a
Invisible.
that particular interview, I definitely remember closing myself in. I definitely did that interview on campus. Remember feeling so broken for him.
That's
Like I've
heavy.
just in the and a lot of times after those interviews, whoo, I wasn't doing too many interviews back to back, but just thinking of things like that. So having greater compassion, don't be dismissive.
You know what comes up for me with that? And even having my own experiences within institutions doing
Sure,
that.
sure,
So this
absolutely.
person, okay, so this particular vignette, this person sharing, okay, so I'm in this meeting. Nobody said anything to me. I'm actually the person who was brought into the tore him up, the impact that it had on him, and at the still having the demands on him from others to, hey, this is happening, that's happening. We need answers, we need guidance, we need support, while having his own experience with that and feeling unsupported. And so, as you described that, that's it right there, dismissive. I appreciate how you framed it in that way. And then the impact of that dismissiveness.
Absolutely. And then it also too, he shared with me. And so from that point on, I'm looking at them, how you say that, giving them that side
Looking
eye,
at you sideways after that. It changed the
how
dynamic. It changed how I felt about being in that institution, in that situation.
because actions will always speak louder than words. I don't care what anybody says. And whatever, whether it's a professional working relationship, you're a part of a team, relationships across the board, family, friends, whatever. Actions in my book always speak louder than words. They just do, usually,
Mm.
part of your question. So that's what not to do. Don't be dismissive. And that goes for students, faculty, or staff. Just check in, give them a call, maybe even a text message that can break the ground for if they want to talk. I don't know what to say, but I'm thinking of you. I saw what happened in the news. They didn't do anything. When George Floyd was assassinated, there was a lot going on in my life at that time because I would say, like, family member in the hospital, 2 family members in the hospital dealing with COVID. My favorite aunt, we find out she had been diagnosed with cancer or breast cancer. It was just a lot going on, right?
At once.
I'm saying this because I'm giving context of where my frame of mind was in the process of writing this dissertation. And I'm sitting there, like, trying to gather my thoughts, and then I'm thinking, this is what they should do. During the time of George Floyd's death, one of my professors reached out to me. Obviously, my advisor did. She's incredible. That's a whole nother level. I think everybody should have an advisor, the one that I had when I mentioned Dr. Bertrand Jones. However, one of the professors who was just in my apartment emailed me, very seasoned professor, and said, I was thinking about you because I know what happened in the media and a lot is going on. So I wanted to check in.
Mm.
And I remember emailing her back saying, I'm also dealing with, I got a couple of family members dealing with COVID, just found about my favorite aunt having cancer. And I remember her saying, oh my gosh, you're going through so much. I'm here. Let me know if you need to talk. I have left the area because it was the pandemic. So she was up in Michigan with her family. That's to be expected. We were all working remotely then. I had some 3-hour classes on Zoom.
Yeah.
Woo! But we did it. We got through it,
Got through it.
And
Yeah.
I remember responding to her. So, what not to do is do not dismiss. Please don't be dismissive. What you can do is provide empathy. That's what she did. She provided empathy out of nowhere.
So what not to do, what you can do, and then what are some things like, okay, so these are some protective factors or these are some things you can put in place that are helpful. So you can keep doing that, keep going down that path or do more of that.
This is what they can continue doing. So, in a lot of these states that I mentioned, there is a ban, an attack on critical race theory. So now that I have explained that, you have places like I'm in Florida, University of Florida got rid of their entire, just a wiped out. There's a school in Missouri, and that I think that case actually made it to the Supreme Court. Now
Mhm.
it's just done away with, just totally diminished. No more CRT. So those individuals, black and brown and allies, you may not be able to have, but at least figure out a way. Have a meeting of the minds. Bring in those on the leadership team. Minoritized individuals still have a safe place and pay attention.
Yeah.
I think that is what needs to continue to happen. Still stay connected. An organization that have my recommendations for and that I utilize while I was doing my research is NADAHE. Are you familiar with
Oh yeah.
NADAHE?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Those who don't know, the National Association of Diversity Officers in Higher Education. And believe it or not, the president was actually Michigan State the same time as me. And she has her JD, and her name escapes me, Paulette. I can't think of her last name right now. I'm gonna have to Google it. But yeah, she was there, and so I sent an email, "Hi, this is a fellow Spartan, just this is the work I'm trying to do. What do you all know currently?" Just trying to gather information so I would know how to move forward before starting the work. And so I know that they still have meetings. I know that they sometimes still have Zoom meetings, conference calls, things of that nature. I think also staying with organizations like that. There are others, but this one, because I'm talking about specifically Black chief diversity officers. That's what my topic was on. That's what my dissertation was. That's why I'm mentioning them. And then again, I keep saying the year of the woman, Black woman, president of NADAHE. I thought I'd listen. I always think Black women in leadership is phenomenal, okay? When you look at the college and white people only, it does
Hmm.
not, all types, I've said it earlier, nationalities, ethnicities, people of color, Black and brown, LGBTQ, disabled community. The list goes on. Our Muslim community is not just Black and white. And so I need folks to have a sound mind. And
Hmm.
also, go to conferences. You're gonna have a position of leadership and you're not, at least go to one, try two, and make sure that you're doing it on a consistent basis. And if you are a professional and you might not have your PhD yet, or that might not be your desire, that's okay. Find some local organizations. You might not be able to always travel. Conferences are expensive. I was very fortunate. Florida State had resources.
To stay in conversation and continue to
Ah,
grow and continue to learn. And
well,
we the ways that we can do that is by getting outside of our institutions, outside of our spaces, and getting those other perspectives in and learning, continuing that journey.